what's up everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are continuing the 2024 mid-year top 10s as we are going to look at the 154-pound super welterweight division and take a look at the rankings at the halfway point. Now before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment or subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So the 154-pound division is getting much better, and it was already pretty solid coming into the year. Had some good surprises this year as well. A lot of moving pieces, and I'm really looking forward to doing this top 10. This division is pretty good, and it's gonna get better in the second half. So let's take a look. We start with the guys that dropped out of the top 10, and we actually had 3. We had our previous number 10, Yoenis Tellez. Not because he did anything wrong. He's 8-0 with 6 knockouts. He returned and got a decision win over former world title challenger Joseph Jackson. But just, you know, the strength of his single best victory over Sergio Garcia just wasn't enough to keep him in the top 10 with all the new guys and new faces coming in and upsets and just things moving around him. So he just dropped out. Also dropping out was previous number 9, former world title challenger Michel Soro. Soro, you know, had fought some close fights in recent years against Kurbanov and Madrimov. Well, most recently was Kurbanov, and Kurbanov got destroyed against Madrimov, and that really hurt Soro because Soro hasn't really done a lot outside of that in recent years, the Madrimov and Kurbanov fights. So I dropped Soro out of the top 10 because of that. You know, he's still banging around. He's still, he got a knockout win earlier this year. But I think it was at the end of May. But just not enough for the top 10. We'll see if he can bounce back into it and get a big fight in the second half. And then the highest ranked guy to drop out was Magomed Kurbanov, the now former world title challenger. He got a golden opportunity on the Joshua Nagano undercard in March to challenge for the vacant WBA title after Jal Charlo gave up that belt. And a lot of people thought he was going to beat Israel Madrimov. I was one of them. And Madrimov just picked him apart, dominated him, and stopped him in 4 rounds. Kurbanov suffers the first loss of his career, and that, you know, and now he's gonna have to regroup. You know, we don't know what he's gonna do next. We'll see how he bounces back in the second half of the year, if he comes back at all. But it's gonna be a long road back after a dominating loss like that. And now the top 10, starting at number 10, is the undefeated Virgil Ortiz Jr. He wasn't ranked coming in. He's the WBA's number 1 ranked contender. He's fought twice this year, defeating, you know, lower level competition, former world title challenger Thomas Delorme in his last one. You know, I forget the other, I think Frederick Lawson was the guy at the beginning of the year. It was his debut at 154. He's looked good twice. And now he was supposed to, well, first he was supposed to fight Timszyu on August 10th, but Zhu had to pull out of the fight as his cut from his forehead wouldn't have healed in time that he suffered against Fundora. So Ortiz scrambled to find another opponent, and it was just made official that he will collide with Serge Bakuchuk, the undefeated, well, he's not undefeated, but the one-loss WBC interim champion, on August 10th on DAZN. That's a big fight right there between those two. Really looking forward to that. I believe this is the toughest opponent, at least on paper, that Ortiz has ever fought. I think Ortiz is going to beat Bakuchuk, but it's going to be a good fight, and I'm really looking forward to it. And a win likely puts Ortiz in the top 5. So we're going to see August 10th on DAZN. Number 9 is the undefeated and newly crowned IBF champion Braum Murrell. Murrell came in and would fight for the vacant IBF title in April against veteran Jack Colkay. they would have a good little slugfest there. They were battling back and forth, but Murtazaev, being a younger fighter, would break down the older Kolke and stop him, I believe, in the 11th round and capture the vacant IBF title. So we don't know what Murtazaev is going to do next, but, you know, there's a lot of stars in this division, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like, his highest rated contender in the IBF, which is Ericson Luben, if he gets the nod against Murtazaev, or if one of the big names can draw him in the ring. So really interested in seeing what he does in the second half of the year and who he fights. Next at number 8 is the former interim champion, Braum Mendoza. Braum Mendoza entered the year coming off the loss last year to Timszyu. Nobody was really talking about him. And then in March, he would step in and challenge for the WBC interim title again against Serge Bakuchuk. Bakuchuk was supposed to fight Fundora for the vacant WBC belt, but Fundora would be allowed to step in and fight Timszyu for the vacant WBC and Zhu's WBO belt. So they, on short notice, Mendoza stepped in to fight Bakuchuk for the vacant WBC interim title. And you got to give Mendoza a lot of credit for stepping in on short notice, but he got his ass beat. He got beat up for 12 rounds, one-sided, and lost a one-sided decision. So it's really hard to rank, to rank Mendoza following back-to-back losses. It was really tough trying to find a place to rank him that was fair. I ranked him here. His highest rating is number 12 by the WBC. I think Mendoza is now the gatekeeper of 154. He's going to be the guy that you got to go through. And, you know, he's going to get a lot of opportunities that way. But I'm really interested in seeing if he comes back in the second half of the year and against who. So we'll see. Next at number 7, dropping one spot from number 6, is contender Jesus Ramos. Ramos returned, got a knockout win over lower level competition this year, following his first defeat, that controversial decision loss to Ericson Luben last year. Not sure what Ramos is going to do next. He's number 3 in the WBC, but, you know, the WBC is already lining up their interim title fight right now. Maybe he can get into some kind of an eliminator. He should be able to get somebody into PBC, considering it's loaded. But we'll see. We'll see what happens and what shakes out. I think he should be making a move towards the IBF belt, but I think other guys might get there ahead of him. We'll see. Next at number 6. Yeah, number 6, dropping one spot from number 5, is former world title challenger Ericson Luben. Luben is currently the WBA and IBF's number 3 contender. He hasn't fought yet in 2024. I think he's waiting around for all the pieces to fall around him, and then he's going to go after somebody. I think Luben has a very good chance of potentially getting the Braum Murrell fight, considering he's the highest rated contender in the IBF right now at number 3. There is no number 1 and 2. So I'm going to be really interested to see if Luben can land that fight with Murtazaev this year. And if he can't, maybe get in the ring with somebody solid and decent. But I think a big fight and challenging for a world title is huge for Luben, and it's something he really needs. Next at number 5 is the WBC interim champion Serge Bakuchuk. Bakuchuk wasn't ranked coming into the year. In March, he had a golden opportunity against Sebastian Fundora to fight for the vacant WBC title. But Fundora was allowed to step in and fight Timszyu after the Thurman fight fell through. They were going to fight for the unified WBC, which was vacant, and the WBO belts that was held by Zhu. So that took the WBC title off the table. But the WBC still allowed Bakuchuk to fight for the interim belt against Braum Mendoza, and Bakuchuk went out there and made a statement. He dominated Braum Mendoza for 12 rounds, one-sided rounds, and got a unanimous decision and became the WBC interim champ. And now Bakuchuk is doubling down as he is going to face undefeated Virgil Ortiz Jr. on August 10th, defending the interim belt against him. Big time fight right there for Bakuchuk. I'm personally picking Ortiz in that fight, but I really would not be surprised if Bakuchuk pulled that one out. So, gonna be interesting. Can't wait to see it. Saturday, August 10th, Bakuchuk and Ortiz for the WBC interim title on DAZN. Next at number 4 is the undefeated and newly crowned WBA champion, Israel Madrimov. Madrimov was highly rated in the WBA. He was actually number 8 overall in my top 10 coming into the year. And he got the golden opportunity to fight for the vacant WBA title against Magomed Kurbanov on a big card on the Joshua Nagano undercard back in March. Charlo had vacated the belt shortly before that, and the WBA and the two-side scrambled to make sure this would be a title fight for the top 2 challengers. Many people were picking against Madrimov. I was one of them. And he went out there and dominated Magomed Kurbanov, stopping him in only 4 rounds and capturing his first world title. And then he made the announcement not too long after that he would defend his belt against Terrence Bud Crawford on August 3rd on the Amazon Prime pay-per-view undercard. Main event, huge fight right here between Madrimov and Crawford. Hands down the biggest fight of his career. I'm really looking forward to it. I personally think Madrimov's going to lose that fight, but I think the bigger Crawford moves up in fights, the more of a chance the other fighters have. And Kurbanov is very technically sound, so we'll see how he fares against Crawford. But I still have him losing, but we'll see if he can pull off a major upset here on August 3rd on Amazon Prime pay-per-view. Next at number 3 is the former undisputed super welterweight champ, Jal Charlo. I had to find a place for him. I couldn't completely drop him out. He was still a champion. He was ranked number 1 coming into the year, and he still had title belts. He's vacated all the belts now, but for the mid-year, I'm still ranking him in the top 10 for now. If he doesn't fight by the end of the year, obviously I'm going to drop him out. He hasn't fought at 154 since May of 2022. So it's been over 2 years now since he's fought at 154. He has not returned from the loss to Canelo last year at 168. We'll see how he fares. We'll see if he comes back, but he should, because he should come back and get his feet wet, because 154 is fucking loaded. And if Charlo comes back and makes a splash before the end of the year, that just sets him up with some of the big fights that are coming down the pike in early 2025. So I'm really interested in seeing how he returns to the ring. Next at number 2 is the now former WBO champion Timszyu. Zhu was set to fight Keith Thurman, on the debut Amazon Prime pay-per-view card on March 30th, but Thurman had to pull out with an injury less than 2 weeks before the fight. Zhu offered a title fight against Sebastian Fundora because the vacant WBC title would be on the line as well. So Zhu would have a chance at another belt. After 2 rounds that Zhu was winning, an unintentional elbow opened up a bad cut on Zhu's forehead, and from there he bled down his face the remainder of the fight, and Sebastian Fundora outworked him in a close, hard-fought, bloody bout, and he would drop the WBO belt and lose for the first time in his career by a split decision. Zhu was going to return against Virgil Ortiz Jr. on August 3rd, but had to pull out because the cut above his forehead wouldn't have healed in time. So Zhu is going to return in the second half of the year. I'm looking forward to seeing who it's going to be against. I really am. But I think Zhu might just try to get his feet back. I wouldn't be surprised if Zhu gets a shot at Braum Murrell for the IBF belt, though. So we'll see. But very interested in seeing how Timszyu bounces back from the loss and what he does in the second half of 2024. And finally, at number 1 is the now the newly crowned and reigning WBO and WBC unified champ, Sebastian Fundora. Fundora shocked the world in that fight with Timszyu. He got the fight on short notice. He also suffered a broken nose in that fight against Zhu and was bleeding all over. So it was a bloody, gruesome battle right there. And he was able to pull it out by a split decision. And now it's looking like he is going to fight Errol Spence Jr. in October, defending his belts against him. Huge battle right there. I personally would pick him to win that fight right now. I think he has a very good chance. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does in that fight and how he finishes 2024. He came in number 4 on the year, and the win over Fundora has moved him up to number 1. So now we look at the top 5 or 6 fighters that didn't make my top 10. We start with Errol Spence Jr. He's the former unified welterweight champ. He's currently the WBC's number 1 ranked contender. It looks like the date has not been finalized, but it looks like he will be colliding with Sebastian Fundora for the unified super welterweight title in October. So we'll see. Again, I personally would favor Fundora right now in that fight, but I think Spence, if it's Spence at his best, stands a pretty good chance of pulling off the win. Next is Charles Conwell, the undefeated contender. He's the WBC's number 2 contender. He returned, got a knockout win over Nathaniel Gallimore earlier this year. He's staying busy. Looking forward to seeing what he does next as he tries to move up the ladder and get in contention. After him is Abbas Baru, who is the WBA's number 2 contender. I guess there's a chance he gets a crack at an eliminator in the WBA. Not sure what he does. I don't think he'll be in line for a mandatory shot anytime soon, or a title shot, but he should try to close the second half of the year out trying to get at least an eliminator. Next is Xander Zayas, the undefeated contender. He's the WBO's number 3 right now. He returned and took on Patrick Teixeira, the former champion, and outdid him over 10 competitive rounds. But he pretty much he pretty much just outworked Teixeira. It was an impressive decision win as he stayed undefeated. Now it's going to be interesting to see if he gets moved into some kind of an eliminator by the end of the year to move up the ladder and try to fight for a title. So we'll see what happens with him. Next up is Vito Mielnicki Jr. He's the WBA's number 4 contender. He's undefeated. He's got a win this year. Going to be interesting to see if he can get into some kind of an eliminator, maybe against Abbas Baru or somebody else. But I'm looking forward to seeing how he comes back. Then you got Josh Kelly, who's the WBO's number 4 contender right now. He's actually moving up to middleweight in his next fight to take on Liam Smith in an all-British battle on the Joshua Dubois undercard in September. So, going to be interesting to see how he does in that fight, and if he's successful, is he moving back down to 154, or is he going to stay at middleweight? So that's an interesting one. So, outside of the highest ranked guys, Terrence Crawford's moving into the division and fighting Israel Madrimov, and most people feel he's going to win that battle. So it's going to be a very good and interesting second half of 2024. Really looking forward to seeing how everything shakes out. I want to see how Crawford does. I want to see how Spence does, because this division is turning over in a very positive and good way. And I can't wait to see how the second half of the year goes for the 154-pound super welterweight division. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my mid-year top 10 on the 154-pound super welterweight division. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.